there's something special about losing in a high performing team versus losing in a not non high performing team.
How do you get your team members to trust each other and to grow the amount of trust you can have in your team members?
That's a great question, right? Because you always have, I was just talking about diversity at the same time. A key element in enabling a group around you to trust each other is to identify, I mentioned this very early in our conversation, identify superpowers of the individuals and how they can leverage that to contribute to each other. Um, One thing about human beings is that there's a natural instinct for us to want to help. There's a natural instinct for us to want to do good. I mean, of course, there's a lot of exceptions which we can debate about, but we have a very natural instinct to want to do good and want to help. And so, as a leader, when you're able to identify, I call them superpowers. When you're able to identify the strength, the skills, and the superpowers of the diverse individuals around you in terms of how they can contribute, it becomes a little bit of an art, but it also becomes a little bit of a science in terms of how you activate that superpowers around you. How do you create a platform for those individuals to exercise the natural desire of wanting to help? And when you do that, that's when you create an environment of people actually building a little bit of branding for themselves at the same time, but also being able to contribute to the greater good and contribute to the success of everybody around you. And then how do you also enable people to know that the things that are not their superpowers, it's okay to show up without them, right? And so I talked about it in terms of how I aspire to role model that. My aspiration to role model that is a way of naturally transitioning that into the way my team show up with that as well. And so when you create that space of activating superpowers and you create the space of people to know that it's okay to not know everything, you build a phenomenal team environment, in my opinion.
I totally agree with you. For me, and in fact, it's one of the pieces of my trust model is where do we rely on each other's genius, and is it okay to show up where we don't have genius, and how can we collaborate and synergize between that? So yeah, love it. So, okay, I'm going to start drawing things to a close, but I want to ask this question. You come from fairly humble beginnings in South Africa, not a particularly prestigious community, perhaps, but you have you got a strong foundation that you must have got there, which you've built on. Could you tell us more about that? And also, I mean, you're now working for a prestigious international company. And what advice would you give to aspiring leaders, aspiring conscious leaders?
Well, that's a big one. That's a big one, Ian. All right. There's a lot that I can share there, right? So let me tackle the first part specifically around my personal background. So I feel like I'm very blessed to grow up the way I grew up in Phoenix in South Africa, which is the township and Indian settlement, if you will. And some of the best memories of my life, to be honest. It's a great, great, great place to grow up in. A lot of great life lessons. But in terms of how that supported my foundation, um, you know, you grow up and you want things in life, materialistic things in life, and I've been one of those individuals that wanted materialistic things in my life. And materialistic things meaning a house, a car, a family, food on the table every day, and having money in my pocket, not having debt. And so for me, that kind of fueled my foundation in terms of how did I want to navigate through this life as an adult to have things? How do I want to navigate through this life as an adult to build a family so my family can have these things and have a sense of comfort? And I say that not to neglect the amount of happiness around it that is not materialistic, all right? I just want to make sure that that comes across clear.
Yeah.
But for me, I think that, just growing up the way we grew up and realizing that there's this massive areas of opportunity around us that we can capitalize on without just sitting back and not doing anything about it. And so that belief really starts from, hey, what do I want? And what do I see that's achievable out there? And how do I believe I can go and get it? And then it takes you to the second part of the question, which is around what advice will I give everybody else there? So when you understand like what you want in life, you have to want it within you. When you understand what the opportunity looks like around you, which is endless, in my humble opinion, you can drive forward and believe that you can achieve it. You listen to so many podcasts, so many talk tracks, so many TED talks. Everybody talks about belief. Everybody talks about believe it, you can do it. So much of truth in that. There's so much of truth in that. When you think about the mental headspace that you put yourself in, to have the clarity on where you want to go, believe that you can get there, and then go and get there. And so my advice to up and coming leaders is very, very, very simple. Very, very, very simple. Is anchor and put the best bet, the biggest bet you can put on your work ethic, how you eat well, think well, sleep well, move well. Put the biggest bet on your work ethic, work hard, have clarity on where you want to go, and continue to push forward. You've given me some nice compliments there, and I thank you for that. I feel like I've been very blessed. I feel like I've been very privileged. A lot of it is hard work, but a lot of it is also being at good timing in good places. But I also feel like, with the right levels of mindset, as I said, I've always put the biggest bet on my work ethic, always. And for me, that's always worked well for me. And I encourage anybody that's thinking about going down a similar path like myself, that's the place I would anchor on.
Brilliant. I love it. So it sounds like what you're saying is that the journey of an aspiring leader starts with self. And I think that to me is almost the best definition of conscious leadership. It's somebody who's been on the journey of self.
100%, right? Like no matter what books we read and no matter what podcasts we listen to, the number one place it starts with is like yourself. You got to determine, like, what do you want to achieve in this world? What is your place in this world? And I know it's a deep statement. I know it's a very, very broad statement as well. But you gotta really sit back and realize, like, what is your place in this world? Like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do with your life? What do you want to do to make a difference? What do you want to do to make a difference to yourself and a difference to the people around you? And then a lot of your clarity comes from that, and I've been also, again, you have to surround yourself by the right people, and as much as you have the internal clarity and it starts with yourself, you have to have the right network around you. You have to have the right individuals around you that push you to be better. And if you're in a circle that's not pushing you to be better, there's two things that's wrong with that, in my opinion. Number one, you're not activating the people around you to push you to be better. Or number two, you got to change the circle that you're in, right? It's one of those two things. And so, to your point, it does start with you. And then there's these other variables around it, which is ensuring that you're putting yourself in the right path,
Yeah.
and you're moving in the right way. Yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. Rishan Barat, thank you so much for taking time in your busy day to be with us and to share your pearls of wisdom.
Of course, anytime. Thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity.
If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. You will then get regular conscious leadership updates in your YouTube feed.